right. Good evening, everybody. Happy February. Happy soon to be Valentine. But in any case, it's glad to have all these new faces here to the Speakeasy, the first Speakeasy of the spring semester. It's been a rough and wild year for everybody dealing with COVID, moving back on campus. I know a rough nor'easter wind hit Philadelphia and kind of drenched the whole place in snow. I wouldn't know. I'm still in California taking care of my little brothers and whatnot. So been enjoying a nice balmy 65-degree weather all day, every day. But enough about talk about hot weather. Let's to start off with the speakeasy for people who are new and for returners. We have one simple rule, which is poetry, prose, anything goes. If you have a musical act, a comedy act, poetry, literature, anything that could be performed on stage or shown off to people, it's all great and it's all valid up here. The only really caveat we'd like to provide is that if you have work that you would feel that you feel it might be uh, offensive or bordering on sensitive topics, we'd ask that you let the audience know so people can listen at their own discretion. And we have usually a 3-minute timer for performances. And beyond that, we hope you guys settle in, enjoy, whether on Zoom or on YouTube. And please give a lot of love and support to all the wonderful people who volunteered for this. And I think I'll let my colleague Rachel start off introducing our first performer.
All right, first up, we have Samantha. Take it away.
Okay, workshopping some comedy stuff today. So I don't know about you all, but I'm pretty sick of being trapped in my house. The pandemic has been, I kind of feel like I'm in jail, frankly, which got me thinking about this coworker who loved escape rooms. And I thought, I bet she cannot wait for lockdown to be over so she can go back to doing escape rooms. And I thought, this is really one of those things that should go away when the pandemic is over. Like, it's just such a terrible idea. And that's mostly because my only experience with doing one, I was trapped with a coworker who refused to do anything. So we were basically just waiting out the clock, and he wouldn't complain because our manager was there. And that just drives me crazy because my rule is whatever's happening, please complain because at least it's entertaining. And the worst things are, the more I hope you'll just complain and be as funny as possible about it. But I don't know about you all. We had such good intentions about, taking care of ourselves and adulting when the pandemic started. And we were pretty good for a while. Like, I remember optimistically cutting coupons for baking ingredients before the holidays. And then fuck if I used any of them before they expired. But I figured I've got the ultimate excuse for not going to the store, which is it's not worth dying for, right? It's life or death here. And we've been pretty good about mostly doing chores, but adulting just sucks. So I do this thing. I like to put things near each other so it'll remind me to do it, right? So I'll put the bathroom cleaner on the sink and then I'll make sure I clean the sink. But then this kind of got taken to an extreme during the pandemic. I'll do this thing where I'll take the empty toilet paper roll and I'll just sort of half-heartedly throw it towards the room that has the recycling bin. And it'll just sit on the floor until I feel like dealing with it. And that's just kind of the level we're functioning at right now. But I'm in California, so bad enough having to worry about being around people. We also had really bad air quality because of the fires and all the pollution and stuff. So we have a terrible landlord. We're in this older house and the windows are kind of rotting out of their frames. So to deal with that, we put plastic sheeting over the windows to try and keep the bad air out. And we kind of fucked it up. So there's a little hole. The whole point of the plastic sheeting is it's supposed to be sealed to keep the cold air outside, or in our case, smoke. But because there's this little hole, we had a couple of houseflies that flew in and then got stuck between the plastic sheeting and the window. And I just felt like that's the perfect metaphor for how we feel right now, right? We're just lethargic and we're confused and we're hopelessly gazing out this window. We can't figure out how to get outside and we can't figure out how the hell we got here. And finally, I have to say we have an anti-symbiotic relationship with our neighbors. they're constantly yelling at each other and slamming things around in the middle of the night. And we've been sort of torn, like, should we call the police? Maybe we should just kind of let them kill each other, because then at least it would be quiet. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Samantha. Always could use a lovely bit of comedy, especially in these times. And yeah, I did forget to mention California, the air quality, the smoke, the clouds, reminds me a little bit of Philadelphia. So honestly, it's not all bad. You might find a few silver linings here and there. But sorry, for the next performer, can you please welcome Sophia to the performance?
Hi, my name is Sophia. I'm 13 and I have a poem. It's called Way Out. It does include some triggering topics such as self-harm and SI, suicidal ideation. So, yes.
So much going on in my head.
Okay, so should I start? Okay. What's wrong with me? You ask yourself. Nothing is, of course. You're perfect. But your mind is telling you differently. Why do I even try? You wonder. Because even though you doubt it, I will tell you and you will listen intently. You were created for a reason, even when you feel small, and God won't be leaving you for any reason. He believes in you. You may be looking for a way out, trying to deal with the real feel of terror. You don't think you're scared, but prepared to leave the world. But you're wrong. Your life goes on. For you're only a young girl. It's too early to lose all hope and to end the life God gave you. But you ignore it. You deplore it. You say, come on, you have to. The knife is held close to the untouched flesh, and you squeeze your eyes closed. The blade touches your skin, but you're too scared to let go. You scold yourself for chickening out. It's sickening how. You could think that you're a baby when you're brave for staying. Now you're alone praying, and you feel you're breaking, and your heart is racing. The gentle touch of a loving being. Now you're feeling yourself healing. You're staring at the ceiling, still kneeling, and you know God's now revealing himself to you. And you ask, what did I do to deserve your love, to deserve your touch? He says, oh, nothing much. He just knew your pain. He released your chain of hurting. He makes you sane and stable, makes you able. He calls your name so you know you're not alone. You're not insane, just someone who lost their way. He could save you any day, and he did, though you thought you were only a kid who couldn't be bothered with. He showed you the way out. He gave you the path, the route to freedom from the doom you had just felt. Your mental health is now stable. You're now able to remember that you'll never be alone. You're not prone to problems, but you're protected, not rejected, but respected by yourself, and loved by yourself, and independent. Your thoughts are incessant instead of interrupted by ideas that are unpleasant. Now you're happy. You know you'll be just fine, not alone, but with a group of your hollow kind. And your mind isn't sick. It's filled with lovely thoughts. You're happy, not afraid, because you stayed. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sophia. 13. Wow. I love the rhymes. I love a good rhyme, as everyone who's been to the Speakeasy before knows very well. Thank you. And next up, we have the Puppet Master. Woo!
Hold on, we're coming. My way. Keep on talking till I can't go on. Why see it your way? Of knowing that our love makes won't be gone.
We can work it out. We can work it out. Think of what you're saying.
Get it wrong and still you think that it's alright.
Think of what I'm saying.
Work it out and get it straight up, take it now.
We can work it out. We can work it out. Life is very short and there's no time for fussing and fighting, my friend. I have always thought that it's a crime. So I will ask you once again. Try to see it my way. Try to see it your way.
That we may fall apart for too long.
We can work it out. We can work it out. Life is very short and there's no time for fussing and fighting, my friend. I have always thought that it's a crime. So I will ask you once again. Try to see it my way. And time will tell if I am right or I am wrong. Can see it your way. There's a chance that we may fall apart before too long. We can work it out. We can work it out. Thank you. Woo. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And for those who are new here, the Puppet Master is one of our most beloved and iconic Kelly Writer's House regulars. We always love the wonderful music she brings, the spirit and the spunk that she always brings to the Kelly Writer's House. For our next performer, could you please welcome Elijah to the virtual stage?
Hello, hello. Let's see. I guess I should start my. Sorry about that. I'm all over the place. I just like to share one piece that's actually will be part of the Poetry Healing Verse, which is a something that started here in Philadelphia with Trapita Mason, the poet laureate. The telephone number is 1-855 poems or poems, excuse me, RX2, which is basically poems are healing. And my contribution is called We Heal Ourselves. It starts with an epigraph. How often do we get stuck and live where we only are, excuse me, how often do we get stuck and live only where we were supposed to pause and catch our breath before proceeding? Sunrisa. Cherish your failures, befriend and confide in them as you would a sage. In return, they will, if you listen carefully, whisper their secrets. Teach you the how to try again, how to find the righted path, how to understand they are only a detour, not a cul-de-sac, that they will measure but a moment in our life and not define it. Allow them to direct us to their purpose, our introspections. The chance to flourish when we behold our failings cause them to concede to our toil, to never slacken in our effort. A breath of purpose. Yes, this is the time, the spell when we heal ourselves with resiliency. And with this healing, we enthusiastically should seek encounters, challenges that verse us to triumph again and again and once more. Yes, we heal ourselves. Thank you for allowing me to share. And just to let you know, the stanza are actually couplings of haikus. So those are actually separate haikus that are sort of coupled together. Thank you.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much. And thank you for explaining the structure as well. Next up, we have Mir.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. So my name is Mehreen Masood Elias, but I go by Mir. It's my first time here. I usually write poetry, but I'm working on a series of flash fiction or nanofables, one of which I'll share with you today. So a couple of notes. The title of the story is The Karman Line. That's a reference to the invisible line at the edge of Earth's atmosphere, where national borders end and undifferentiated space begins. And the epigraph is from Edward Said's essay, Reflections on Exile. And the epigraph reads, "Exile is the unhealable rift forced between a human being and a native place." So before I start the story, I wanted to say, in honor of Black History Month, I dedicate this story to all the restless spirits of the earth. May you continue to haunt us so that we can set ourselves free and you can finally rest in peace. The Karman Line. When Kala was young, the droneless night belonged to her. She could slip into the indigo darkness so easily that it was hard, after a while, to find her. This was not really a problem because no one at home, even her mother, would have noticed that she had gone temporarily unaccounted for, perhaps even missing. She liked playing this one-person game of hide and seek, where she would hide and then seek herself in the inseparable dark of the night. Once a year at festival time, she would sneak off with a forbidden sparkler and delight in the stars that erupted and fell to earth instead of floating up to the heavens where they belonged. As a teenager, in one of her wanderings, real and imagined, she was suddenly hooded and carried off by strangers and stuffed into the hold of a cargo ship that cut through the air, or was it space, crossing boundaries and jurisdictional lines that were otherwise forbidden to Kala's people. Never having had a passport, ticket, or identity card, the darkness of the hood became Kala's one-way portal away from the familiar unfamiliar to the unfamiliar unknown. In her new home, where she adapted, but that failed to adopt Kala, at first the pain of simply being slid around under her skin, causing musculoskeletal damage, but eventually it pulsated out through the pores of her skin into the vacuum of space. After enduring many years of reprogramming, she finally understood certain important things. For example, that words such as truth and dishonor were devoid of meaning. After her substantial reprogramming, Kala herself had begun a new afterlife in which she operated with fatal gaps, not just in her lineage, but also in her memory banks. Her unknown ancestors rested deep inside her as genetic possibilities. They rested deep in a house with no windows, no doors, with only a slim potential for release. As for the familial, having lost all kith and kin, she took it upon herself the hard and necessary task of loving the permanently undocumented civil detainees who were othered like her, and who, like her, embraced their otherness. And they all secretly started forming communities of emotion called the Impossibilium. So deep were their bonds that they all simultaneously made a pact to imagine a child-free future for themselves, all the better to remain true to each other. This, unfortunately, created a huge backlash from all quarters of polite society, especially against people like Kala, as they were accused of forgetting not just their origin stories, but also of lacking basic human proclivities. As the years passed, Kala started to notice certain curiosities about herself. She didn't age like everyone else around her, as her companions in the Impossibilium perished one by one. So when the opportunity suddenly presented itself one day, she stowed away in the cargo holds of one of the first ships leaving Earth on a self-assigned one-way mission, never to return to a home that never was home to her. On some days, she can still smell the caramel smoke signals of unpartitioned lands, long unknown on Earth, and only existing in space beyond aerodynamic reach. On those days, she whispers to her companion, the dark, "Do you miss us? Do you miss us? Trees, air, river, birds, grass, the north wind, foxes? Do you miss us?" No one answers back.
Wonderful. That was excellent. I love imaginative sort of science fiction kind of vibes, and that just takes the cake right there. Thank you very much for presenting. And for our next performer, please welcome Bill Corey to the podium, to the digital podium.
Hi, my name's Bill. I have some short poems. They are just reflections on my quotidian life, and I hope something connects with someone. So the first one is called Juggling. For years, I tossed the plates in the air and caught them one by one. Day came when I missed one, and then another. The place smashed to the ground and shattered in 1,000 shards. As I looked, I saw a mosaic of a world without me, and I came to realize my work was done. Next one is a poem about anyone who has spent too much time thinking about the person who got away. It's called Killing the Memory. I'm killing the memory of you. Slowly but certainly, I'm killing the memory of you before it kills me of misery. I should be happy, yet I'm not, for I'm dousing a light that still brightens my life. But the cost is too high to keep yesterday nigh. So I'm killing the memory of you, lest it kill me with sorrow. I'm killing the memory of you to make room for tomorrow. Next one is my morning bed. My morning bed is a temporary grave from which I daily escape. I dare not look at it once I am free of its grasp, at least until the wearies of the world defeat me again, and I crawl back again there to collapse. I just have one more. It's called Passion. The difference between an attraction and an addiction may only be a matter of degree. But what is the difference between an addiction and a passion? It cannot be a mere matter of degree. For the pursuit of a passion ignores degree. It ends only in success or ignominy. That's what I have to offer tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bill. Those were lovely.
Thank you.
Next up, we're going to invite Adrian.
Good evening, everybody, and many blessings to you. I'm glad to be here. I've been receiving emails for a long, long time, but I've never actually come on here. So this is my first time. I am a Philly poet. I've been writing since I was about 14. To all of you young poets on here, I admire your courage. Please keep writing, writing, writing. We need your gift in the world. So I'm going to share one piece. I wrote this in August of last year, and sort of just feeling the weight of the pandemic, more so feeling the weight of what other people were feeling, so many people around me hurting. So this piece is called Of Time and Butterflies. I've been surviving on early morning communion with my father, Psalms at brunch, Nina's truth at noonday, the warm embrace of love's sanctuary at eventide. Then at midnight, I feast upon the sweet slumber of mercy, only to rise by grace. I feel blessed. So much poetry wrapped in this newest disparity. At times I find it tries to consume the best of me, Yet I wade through waves of empathy for all the sadness, sickness, and uncertainty around me. I draw strength from the testing of my own times, when my faith needed to learn how to flex the muscle of its existence as it teetered between what I saw with my eyes and what my soul knew was true. I lend my strength to those I reach for, or to those who reach for me, or to those whose pain I feel and carry so deeply. Yet I remind myself that I do not own this sadness. I say it quietly and privately as I mother hug their vulnerability, careful not to squeeze too hard while applying the pressure of love to stop the free flow of blood spilled upon empty pages that bear half-written stories. I pray and wish I could pen for them, yet destiny has caught bittersweet endings. I hate these moments, yet I respect their need to be. None of us own time, so we must yield to its power to hold us or drop us or leave us, tracing where the seconds went. While whole days slip through our fingers, we either try to grasp onto the power within each, or we bid it adieu, sometimes abruptly. We are here. We are what remains after. Through it all, I pray we choose to see the butterfly that appears as suddenly as the breeze that shows up out of nowhere and everywhere, all at the same time. Not able to trace its arrival, a wonderful, unexpected visitation, a reminder to see it even through tears of pain. It's a sign of hope, like a rainbow. The warm embrace of fond memories while we are yet still here, learning the lessons that time is trying to teach us, to do what must be done, to say what needs to be said, and to be present in each moment, respecting the power of now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Adrian. First of all, for taking your time to come here for your first time. I hope you're enjoying it, and I'm so happy that you were able to present for your first time this February. That's what Speakeasy is all about, yo. And for our next performer, please welcome Amelia to the digital stage.
Ooh. Hello, I wasn't sure if I would get on the list. I'm Amelia. I write poetry and memoir. It might be a little loud in my background right now because I've got a vacuum going around and some pet chaos. Here we go. And I'm going to read just a short piece of sort of flash memoir, which I left over there. 1 second. All right. There are rules to the Schuylkill River Swim Club. Because AJ doesn't want it to land on Philly Mag's best pandemic spots of 2021, and because AJ made up the club and invited you to it, and because you like secrets, probably because you're bad at them, you agree not to tell anyone where it is unless you're bringing them there, and not to post any pictures you may take on social media or text them to friends. You can show them to people on your physical phone, though. As if anyone could tell exactly where you were, or would be clamoring to swim in the Schuylkill River, which boasts not only rowers who can't see you and could easily bop you on the head with an oar, knocking you out cold to sink to the sludgy bottom, and bam, you've just ruined their whole day, but fast currents in spots, drowned teenagers and dismembered bodies, and is maybe toxic, which, side story, they called Philly tap water Schuylkill Punch for its unique taste of unfiltered water for the first 100 years, and the city added chlorine. Now we also have filtration and even fluoride. And I mean, you think about all this at first, the first time it pops up in a text message months ago. But then the second summer where you never got to go in the ocean is winding down, and you recently wound yourself up about all the change in your life. And you want to do exciting things because you know you can, and it actually feels like you should. So you bike share almost an hour in the 90-something muddiness, almost as sure a sign of Philly summer as the sound of a gaggle of wheelie-popping dirt bikes is a sign of spring. The grit from the block, all the blocks plastering onto your sweat and sunscreen. Meet AJ at the bike dock and walk for 20 more minutes to a muddy bank and a boat dock where you sit for a minute to catch your breath and have a snack as AJ does a handstand, then falls backwards into the river. And when you glance back at the too bright skyline, toes in the water and hands beginning to push off the dock, you decide to not worry about keeping an eye on your backpack with your wallet and your phone, because you are creating the world you want to be in by being the person you want to be, and the school will probably kill you anyway. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I love Philly anecdotes. Next up, we have Lindsay.
Hi, everyone. So this is my second time at these speakeasies, but everybody has been so amazing tonight. I'm suddenly incredibly nervous. Okay, so this is a short piece I wrote. It's called Valentine to an Old Flame. The subtitle, A Love That Can Be Bought. Oh, my beloved scented candle. You were there for so many relaxing, sensual baths, and also for the energetic, sexual romps. You were more versatile than your brother Vanilla or sister Sage, and heightened, but never overpowered, the senses. Having you made me a better person. Like that time the power went out, and I had not yet brushed my teeth. You lighted my path towards healthy dental hygiene. My best friend was so envious of my relationship with you. She had no candle or even a flashlight to guide her way. You were everything I could want in a candle and more, but I was careless, and I cut your wick too short. I watched the struggle as your flame sputtered out again and again, but I could never abandon you, my love. For months you sat in a sweater drawer and shared your lovely lavender aroma lavishly, without restraint. All of my coworkers complimented my new fragrance, and without a single designer label, the snobbish New York elite had something else to sniff their nose at. I think in your second incarnation, I adored you even more. I am getting old and dusty now as well, but your scent is all the sweeter as we age together. Remembering you in your prime, the first time you came home with me from Walmart, has kindled all those old sentimental feelings again. I found you in a crowded bargain bin that day, but never once did you make me feel cheap. I will dig out some excess wax for you, my old flame, and you will rise again another day. Oh, how the sparks will fly this Valentine's. I am so grateful that you are mine. That was all.
Excellent. That was great. I haven't had a there's a lot of stuff we miss in this pandemic and a lot of
Okay. Well, I liked the pun in the title, Old Flame. And then I'm just going to really quickly, as usual, see if there are any volunteers who want to read again, people who didn't read but want to read now. And then I'm going to wait a cool 7 seconds for anyone to say anything. Adrian, was that a hand? Did I see that? Oh, you're muted. Perfect.
So if no one else volunteers, I have another piece.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. This is another one written during the pandemic. I hope we've all been writing a lot. I know for me, writing has definitely been my peace and sort of like my saving grace. So this piece is entitled The Power in Silence and the Freedom of Screaming. Wind whipped and chilled to the bone. She stood on the edge of the river, searching for her reflection in the stillness of this body of water. Iced over and hushed, she thought to herself, how powerful it must be to just go silent, frozen in time amidst the noise. Yes, the world is so very, very noisy right now, a very extraordinarily noisy noise. Yet here, silence ruled. Or did it? No, She could think of 1,000 decibels of noise that she could pour out into the quiet of this space, overriding what it had become. She imagined opening her mouth to scream, screaming until the veins on the side of her forehead would begin to protrude, swelling blue, green, forcing the blood to explode to the surface of her smooth caramel skin. Yes, she would scream until others got free. She would spill the pain of him and her and them into this body of water, causing the hurt to shatter like fallen icicles on an oddly warm winter day. She had a notion to just scream until what has been hidden is peeled back in full exposure, laid out in the open air, revealing truth. If she could just scream loud enough, she would unlock the prison doors of hate and hypocrisy, concealed beneath hidden agendas and loaded intentions, screaming until liberty was nigh and humanity remembered its place. Just the very idea of screaming felt like freedom. Yet in this moment, as the wind whipped, chilling her to the bone, while she stood on the edge of the river, searching for her reflection in the stillness of this body of water, iced over and hushed, thinking to herself, how powerful it must be to just go silent, frozen in time amidst the noise. Thank you.
Excellent. And for these impromptu ones, we'll just be going down the list of people who volunteered. So Amelia, if you're available, please step up back in and show us what you've got ready.
Actually, could you skip me? I'm still trying to open stuff.
Sure, sure. No worries about it. For next then, let me say, Elijah, please. If you have anything ready, please come up and present.
Okay, thank you so much. Actually, this poem is, well, obviously, I'll read it. It'll explain itself. It's entitled, Who They Are. On this morning, in this moaning, through this mournful first light, I view the insurrection. I thank God that I also see people scared, unable to share this America, who feel as fervently as faith. To untie is the same as unite when I is pushed in back of the T. They do not listen to the Queen, otherwise they would know UNITY. What is it to fear? Why the trepidation? The fishmonger peddles to them that we are the dreaded piranha, the dreaded pariah in the water. And the convocation is convinced they will be preyed upon, so they say grace before they eagerly eat the bait, only to find it is not easily consumed. Nor does it end the pangs of a belly bloated with misinformation and dread. Call them deplorable, or is it their condition or their conditioning? How do they fearlessly face the uncertainty and the realization there is only an illusion of power, and the ones they have seen beset? Will they exercise demons back to them? Will they mimic their action of abuse or their lack of action, complicity, apathy? Will they? They worry, will they? Not knowing they are both they.
Wow. I love the they are both they. That one's just lingering in my mind. Okay, next up, we're gonna have the Puppet Master one more time. Puppet Master, are you ready? Awesome.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Wait for the music. Just for a second. It's a small world after all. 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 It's a small world. It's a small world. It's a small world. It's a small world after all. It's a small world after all. It's a small world after all. It's a small world. A small world after all. It's a small world after all. It's a small world after all. It's a small world. Small world after all. It's a small world after all. It's a small world after all. It's a small world. It's a small world after all. It's a small world after all. It's a small world after all. It's a small world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Puppet Master, for another awesome song. Yeah, no, she's right. It is a very small world. What are we, across 50 states over here, and we're having this wonderful little speakeasy together?
Yeah.
Really is a small world. As for the next person to come up, Amelia, are you ready, or do you still need some time?
I am ready.
Excellent. Why don't you come up here and...
All right. So I'm going to shift gears and do a poem. And just a heads up that it deals with death and dying in case you want to take care of yourself, however you need to take care of yourself. Take care. Your father, back in town from Florida for your young cousin's funeral, can barely make it up the stairs, can barely stuff his shoes onto his feet, and you come to know what you've already known. He calls whenever the weather is bad up here, knowing before we do about snow forecasts. It's 74 here, man. Always from inside the condo, neighbors all much older retirees behind their own doors, always drinking all day. Drinking all day, even here, now, surrounded by family, home, connection, sitting in a corner as you tell him to talk to people, as you bring him a plate, as the nights lead up to and past your young cousin's funeral. In your 39th year, death comes heavy. Friends and family, old co-workers, your own body after only so many minutes on the couch is hard to raise, your own son taller than you now, your young cousin dead a week. You have given your father your only bed. I have given you mine. 9 nights stretch into 3 weeks. Your cousin and his wife and kids sprawled across your floors until the day-long drive back southwest. You have to work 6 days a week. You have your father to check in on. Your uncle's house swells with distant kin, and you sometimes cannot find the right moment to leave, so you show up late or not at all. I practice patience poorly. Presence is enough. You invite me uptown where I learn to ask your cousins all their names instead of asking you when we will leave, when you will sleep. My own grief dried out on the back burner. I still have not talked about my aunt's funeral last week, until your sister and her husband one night stop by and greet me with my own condolence, and I sputter, I saw myself in her. You show me the shirt you want to dry clean for the day before we know when the day will land. I want to tell you to take it now, to tell you it takes time. On our way to the liquor store, I confess I don't remember how your brother passed, and you confess you did not tell me. There is only so much that a body can carry. I know you know this already too well, but you also know how much the body carries may not be directly correlated with its own mortality. There are no alignments, no predictions, guarantees. You have said to me many times, we're not promised tomorrow, to the smallest, slightest things, an attempt to plan a weekend, and every time you say that, a bit of me unravels. But I am coming to know now it may be all that ravels you. There is only so much that a body can carry. You ask your father to take better care of himself, printing out pages on diet for disease. You have asked perhaps the same thing of your son, lately as his good sense slips towards adolescence. And I am asking you this, to take care, to see that care requires taking, requires action, outreach, holding on. It is August, this arbitrary year more than halfway over, nearly through our love, the weight of a small child. You help your father stuff his feet into his funeral shoes, pack a bag with sneakers. I climb into the back seat, wordless, so he can take the front. Stretch the belt, buckle in. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amelia. Sorry, I was moved by that and dissociated. Sam, if you are ready to read now, if you still want to share something.
Yeah, I've got a poem. I wrote it a few years back, so it's very firmly in the pre-pandemic era. It's called Chat's Coffee. One of the dogs is barking his head off and wagging his curly tail. The owner keeps knocking on the window and shaking his head at the dog, who doesn't seem to know that means shut the hell up. At least I thought it was the owner, but he stepped outside and greeted the other dog, the one who is quiet, except for some low-level whining. That dog is tied up next to the door, and I can see its head around the corner. The impatient nose. People come in, line up, wait, greet the owners, exchange news, walk back out, clutching their drinks or small paper bags of food. A little girl with a pink pacifier in her mouth watches me and dances around saying, "Ready, set, go, ready, set, go, ready, set, go." The pacifier stays firmly in place, yet she speaks clearly. Her mother is wearing sunglasses indoors and does not remove them. The dog outside barks again, and the man, maybe the owner, taps the glass with his finger, gives the dog a look that says, "Stop doing that." The dog looks at him as if it understands and seems to nod slightly in recognition of the command, then starts barking again. Finally, the man takes his breakfast, leaving his coffee and phone on the table, and goes outside to, I don't know, try to reason with the dog. When he comes back in, the dog is sitting quietly, not barking. I am impressed. The sky is gray and I am getting cold with the door wide open. I'm halfway through my lemon poppy seed muffin, halfway through my chai tea, and somewhere between halfway and never finished with my memoir. I don't know the password for the Wi-Fi. I don't want to do any of the things I need to do, and the other things I could be doing all require the internet. I only recently learned I'm supposed to be capitalizing internet. The man takes his food and his phone and goes to sit outside on the bench facing the dog, who is now sitting quietly, not barking. I wonder where all these people are going, whether they're on their way to somewhere, work, or if they will go back home or run errands today, or if they are on vacation, going to the park or to look at art. I wonder what I could be doing today instead of chipping away at time and my writing projects like a giant solid block of snow melting under me. Writing moves like a glacier, imperceptibly growing and shrinking, but sometimes it cracks wide open and drifts away. Sometimes I think I can write my way onto a new continent, and other times I am up a creek on an ice floe without a paddle. Outside, the dog is laying quietly on the sidewalk. I read back through what I have written, and when I am finished, the dog and his owner are gone.
Thank you, Samantha. I know someone pointed this out in the comments, but halfway between halfway and never finished, that sums up a lot of that whole feeling entirely in such a nice manner. Excellent work there. For next performer, and yes, if you guys have any other time commitments, feel free to step out, but we don't want to hold you prisoner here, as nice of a and wonderful of a prison this is, if you could call it that. But the next person we'd like to call is Miri, who'd like to present some other work today.
Hi, it's Mir. Thank you so much. This is a short poem. I think most of us poets were very much inspired by Amanda Gorman's inauguration poem. The epigraph is from her poem, and the poem was inspired by that. I literally wrote it as soon as I finished listening to her. The epigraph is, "For there is always light, if we are brave enough to see it, if we are brave enough to be it." Those are the closing lines of her poem. My poem is called Feelings of Infinite Ephemera on January 20th, 2021. Some trigger warning as well. The weather is unsettled by stars that keep wafting down from above in flurries, while the sun looks on in golden envy. The weather is unsettled by souls that keep floating up from below in droves, while the earth looks on in green despair. As uncivil wars rage on in the world of left behinds, we are visited frequently by strange knocks on the door and marched off one by one on the road of forever farewells, bearing the spark of the great beyond that lives in us all, knowing that eons will pass before our wooden bodies, shipwrecked in middle passages from freedom to hope, emerge from seabeds, only to be dissected for knowledge or sold as parts, rare and dear, all in the name of joyless profit. So, for now, just for one day, we set aside our misgivings. We hold close, our lights bright. We fill our hearts with courage red. We dare, as creatures ephemeral, to be sentimental, to be hopeful, to be fearless, to be undying light against ever jealous dark. We dare, as creatures ephemeral, just to be.
Thank you. And last but not least, we have Lindsay.
Hello. So I'm going again, no pressure, Isaac, so that this time I can hear comments after. Okay, so this is another short piece. It is about sort of another performative event like this one. It is called Seen a Shooting Star Tonight, which is a lyric from a Bob Dylan song. I've been at this same school for 4 years on account of the fact that I was held back once. And every year they put on this dumb talent show where a bunch of snot-nosed kids show us they ain't got no talent at all. The competition is mostly off-key singers and even offer-key band geeks. Billy once did some pretty good guitar picking, but then he ruined the whole thing with this mushy love song. All the girls in the auditorium seemed to like it though, because they got mushy hearts. And they shouted and hollered as if Elvis was in the building. For weeks after, they were still fluttering around Billy and causing a scene in the lunchroom. It most made me throw up my ham sandwich to see. Without fail, Mary Ellen would twirl her batons every year and hit herself in the darn head and run off stage crying. You'd think she'd get some talent one time or other. So all this is to say, no one was expecting much when the Olmsted Middle School talent show was announced, me especially. But then Susie Ann marched up there on stage like a firecracker, and she went off. Her name is really Susanna Anna, because parents are stupid, but she goes by Susie Ann. Well, good old Suze about knocked us out with her performance, which is kind of like sashaying around this pole in the middle of the stage. She weren't on the pole too much, but the parents hooted and hollered something awful every time she got near it. Susie Ann finished the act with a bunch of backflips that set the tassels on her outfit swinging wildly and my heart racing. I ain't never seen nothing like her before, and I couldn't hardly believe it when she didn't win. Susie Ann didn't cry or nothing, though, when the Olmsted twins took the trophy for their lame magic show. The twins' most impressive trick had to be stealing the spotlight just long enough for Susie Ann to disappear into thin air, because she was the only thing magic on that stage, and I ain't never seen her again. That's all.
Brilliant. I love
What a way to tell you a lot about a character right from the get-go. Love it. Thank you so much, Lindsay. So with that, that concludes the first speakeasy of the spring 2021 year. I'd like to give you, hey, you guys, give yourselves a clap, a snap, pat on the back, all that good stuff. You guys really helped make this an awesome event, and we really appreciate you guys coming and enjoy the rest of the year.
Good
Oh
night.
yes, and right, that is a very good tip.